Unless anybody says otherwise, I will take the liberty of a group meeting.
That seems appropriate.
Sounds good.
And this group meeting would be taking place at Michael's apartment. Jennifer has completely appropriated the bathtub.
Okay.
And I mean, technically, you can still use it for showers and stuff like that, but you discover it ain't the same. You know. Let's take a look at what I see in this meeting, and you guys can edit it as you see fit. I think that it includes Cheryl.
Okay.
And I think that actually Michael is just a plethora of relevant, strong women to your situation. So therefore, Amanda has to be there too.
Okay.
And I think that Jennifer from the tank is there. And I think that Jenny Power is there.
Jennifer Power
is there. We are at Michael's apartment, and we have all these people there. I mean, the place is packed. We've got 3 superheroes. We've got 4 women. Is there anybody else that seems relevant to be there?
Let's get Myrmidon in here. Well, no.
Oh, okay. Right.
No.
Okay.
I mean, she's relevant, but the boss is a problem. The boss is a problem.
I think part of the meeting is actually about her not being there. So,
Yeah.
So let's what you have. I'm just deciding whether Father Ochoa he's not actually a DNPC, correct?
Yeah, he's not on the sheet.
Right.
So.
That doesn't necessarily mean he would or wouldn't be there, but you know what? Let's have him be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see him come into the light.
And let's also have, I'm trying to think of anybody else that seems terribly relevant. There are a couple of personal plots that are kind of hanging fire right now. So before we go on, I'm going to mention that your brother Liam is the goings on at your parents' house are kind of an issue.
Yes.
That was where I was kind of gonna go next.
Right.
In terms of, I think, well, Finn's brother is now a top priority. Man of War is also a top priority for a number of reasons, both necessity and the fact that if anything, if we learned anything from Myrmidon, it's that having heat matters in terms of our impact on the culture, in terms of our impact on society. That's going to give us more power to do things like get your life sorted out, Finn, since you're kind of between a rock and a hard place right now. Yeah. But if the Crawl is an honest-to-God superhero that people love and admire, you're going to have more options to...
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Well, the first thing...
Not quite sure how we get to that point. But...
Right. Well, that's basically what... This is sort of a big, what are we doing here meeting. Right?
Yeah.
And unless you correct me, more than one person has considered that for no good reason, but because this is what people do, that we have to eat while we do this. So therefore, there's been a lot more cooking, jostling,
Right.
comparison of Chipotle recipes, and there's been a lot more of that in the run-up to a highly deadly, dangerous, significant superhero meeting
Right.
than you might think. Does that make any sense? I'm kind of just trying to create
Yes.
sort of this social environment.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do this on an empty stomach, so.
What's that, Russ?
You wouldn't do it on an empty stomach, though, would you?
No. The people are stirring stuff and, introducing Jennifer. Edwards has not, Jen Edwards has not met Cheryl, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, so any amount of interesting socializing. So Michael's point is a good one, or Ross's point, speaking for Michael, is a good one. And at the moment, I'm going to say that it's not like there's one person up there with an easel or a whiteboard with an agenda at all. This is almost more just like people are eating and talking in kind of a big jostly way,
Ron, can you, just as part of the run-up, can you confirm to us or describe to us what exactly is Man-O-War's cultural impact?
Yes. This is something that I've been thinking about a little bit. First of all, he was active, in the Pacific during World War II. That's when he became a household word, and so therefore is revered as part of the various moments of World War II that people, recall. And that he also had he had no crime fighting role at all.
Right.
So he never patrolled a city, he never caught a crook, he never, put the bad guys behind bars, he didn't, soar through the sky and stuff like that. So he's very much a matter of military operation. And if you want to do a little bit of, public research on him that would make some sense would show that he had a much different history with the Korean War, and specifically that he and MacArthur did not get along at all. And after MacArthur's very famous invasion at Incheon, in the second year of the war, I think, and therefore MacArthur was now the most beloved military figure, across America. And then when very little was heard after that, especially because the public didn't know his name. People who've done research into it and things like that have hit a classified wall. So you can bet that there are people who know lots and lots about it, but there are no, books. There was a long-running comic book that kind of petered out in the late 60s.
Okay.
There was an 80s revival of the character, very much in the vein of actually there are several different versions of it. One was just a revival where he became part of a fictional super team who had a cartoon. And then there was also a dark and edgy DC comic where his son, was a Vietnam veteran who, everyone thought was a serial killer. But, of course, he had to fight the real serial killer by going off the grid, and all that kind of stuff. Powers-wise, his amphibious qualities were played up. So in many ways, it was kind of the notion that he was like a human octopus or squid or something like that never came up. He had what they would call them deep sea powers. And different comic book renditions have kind of interpreted that differently at different times. But nobody's ever... And there was a lot of talk in that 50s, in the sort of mid-50s comic, while it was popular, there was a lot of talk about a serum. And that kind of faded out of the picture. Serums became less interesting to comic book readers, in favor of, say, radiation. And then later, psychic powers and stuff. But anyway, so that's pretty much the common knowledge. Does that help a little?
Yeah, that helps a little. I guess in terms of general impact as to whether Americans aggregately think of him as a good guy, important national figure, or forgotten nostalgia trope?
I would say it's kind of in between. Okay. Who today knows who Audie Murphy was?
The singing cowboy? Okay, well, me then. Right.
Did you also know that he was an ace pilot in World War II?
I did not.
He left he signed up, he enlisted during combat in World War II, gave up his acting career, evidently, and went and became, I believe, a pilot. I'll have to double check on the pilot. I might be mixing that up with someone else. But he saw a great deal of combat, and returned and took up his career again, and was considered, a notable figure. World War II buffs all know who he is and what he did and where he flew and stuff like that. Another good example is the Ultra Codebreakers, for something that's a little bit more widely known today because there are like British dramas about them every other week. But the actual facts of the matter are much more defined by dramatizations rather than by the actual historical events. So you watch a BBC show and there's going to be obviously some Russian agent, got in there, during the whole thing, and it was a big deal. Because that's in the story. But you have, so I'm trying to think of things that are technically real. Everyone knows about, they know there's an island called Iwo Jima.
Right.
They know that the people put a flag on it.
Flag, yeah.
But before the Clint Eastwood movies, nobody could point to it on a map or tell you why the fuck, right?
Right.
And so it's a little bit like that.
Okay.
Everybody knows that there was, a great hero, who fought in the war.
Right.
So there's a general positive memory of it. Exactly when, why, or how is reserved for people who study the war.
Right. Okay.
And then what they get out of that is more of what they get out of that is more a matter of what's been released or news of the time rather than genuine knowledge.
Okay.
But to answer your question, more people would recognize that name than not.
Okay.
If anybody asked you, or if you asked anybody what he looked like, you will get a pretty good description from older people of the 60s comic book, or from younger people, actually now in 2018, it wouldn't even be that. People would just sort of instantly think of the 80s comics. And say, that's what. A little bit like if you ask anybody today what the Punisher looks like, you will get a picture-perfect description of the guy in the Netflix show.
Right.
And that's the Punisher. They just, yeah, in fact, I would say that people who are into history would tell you that they know the name Man-O-War. They know the guy's real name. But they've forgotten that they learned that name from the 80s comics when it was assigned as a fictional device. So they wouldn't say Darren Gates.
Oh,
I see. That's interesting.
And if you reminded them, hey, that was from the comic, they'll go, oh, well, yeah, but that must have been based on the original, right?
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So yes, in all these conversations, you've brought up a couple of things. You've brought up the issue of getting some sort of messaging involved, particularly for Crawl, to backstop any legal difficulties that may or may not show up soon. And then also you've mentioned the fact that Man-O-War basically is running around loose, and
well, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow getting Man-O-War back to society, we could make a name for ourselves doing this if we did it right.
If we had him on our side, he owes us one, So, yeah.
I hope he sees it the same way, but I'm not sure he does.
Yeah. Also, someone, if I may say something in character, there could be some more people like how do you say, Shield, as he was. I'm sorry, I'm missing the English word. There could be some more people imprisoned as he was, like in time stasis or wherever it was that guy was in, that he's still young. Who knows how many other superpowered people are there imprisoned by the government or whoever. I mean, who had him, and did they capture him back? Did he talk about us? This is not good.
Yeah, so Ross, do you want to catch everybody up to speed on who we're dealing with?
Oh, yes. So it appears that people who had him, based on where I appear to have acquired via a chain of friendly biohackers, the serum that eventually turned back into Man-O-War was a Austin-based medical research medical research-based company, Ami Biota, who definitely have big links with the Army and the Brook Medical Center in Austin, and probably aren't very nice people.
San Antonio.
San Antonio, sorry.
Right.
My Texan geography is
only 60 miles off.
That's pretty close, actually.
Yeah, it's a day trip.
They're probably not very friendly or very nice, and they seem to have been potentially covering their tracks by wiping out the my online biohacker friends who have all disappeared from the web and the slightly dark web, and
so that's
need my help as well.
So Ami Biota and Brook Army Medical Center, are they the people who took your brother? And the question for this is, this is Amanda. Amanda's making one of those crazy person charts.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as we know, yes.
In fact, she's not doing it with a pencil and pen. She's got a pad, like a digital iPad or something.
Right.
And she's got a program with you can tap the icon you want and hook it up to other icons and stuff for make a complicated organizational chart. She can do that. So yeah, she's tapping this out. Okay, so she's asking you more about that. You'll notice, Ross, a lot of the people in the room are looking at you real, it's like they're not asking you something. That unusual looks of yours, which I know ordinarily applies to just your hero ID. Well, now that we're talking about all this funky stuff and biohacking and stuff like that, people are kind of looking at you like you're the guy who hacked your own biology for some reason. Kind of the... How do you ask somebody, what the hell did you do that for? So that's kind of what I'm you're getting a vibe.
Yeah.
So then,
let it wash over me for now.
Right. So there's so the conversation seems to have turned to Man of War, but before we go there, says Cheryl, let's tell you a little bit. The Lexicon project has to be strictly academic for a while. All of the licensing, legalities, whatever, of the Oblate as a superhero are on file, but they're not activated yet. They're not, it's not official. It's not yet, legal for the Oblate to go running around doing things. So we have to file that for now. And yet, Amanda, and she and Amanda exchange a quick look, and Amanda says, Amanda is currently on retainer from the department we've hired Amanda as freelance counsel, not with her firm. We've hired Amanda as freelance counsel for us, and we think we've hammered something out. That, first of all, if her firm takes on, or if she, basically becomes a consultant for the Black case with Monsanto and UTSA, and if she represents, so she's counsel for or consultant for the Black case, and then we can put all of this together. We can put all of this together so that the activities of whatever you want, we can't call you Silverbeak, but the activities of whatever you'd like to be called can be covered legally, not owned, not licensed, but legally backstopped through our department as part of the research of the Lexicon project. And she kind of smiles and says, in that way, it's not licensing, but you're legal.
That's awesome.
And so, and Amanda's looking very smug. She's, she works this out, into the night, to work this one out. She's pleased. And she says the tricky part is that UTSA has taken on consulting from Myrmidon and from Monsanto. They're kind of fighting it out right now over who is actually going to represent Brian Black, or represent the university relative to Brian Black. So they are.
So you meant me as my public figure?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about Blue Skirt.
Well, the what we're trying to say is that right now, it would make more sense for you not to be Silverbeak.
But that's my job.
That's fine. You can be Silverbeak in regard, but then you have to work that out with Monsanto and Myrmidon about who's going to represent you and whether Monsanto is going to own you. Because Monsanto is seeking to represent you against, the charges that you're facing, or that the university is facing because of you. And And so if they represent you, then that to them means that they can use that as precedent for holding you to the license regarding your grandfather.
Yes, but that's the way it works. That's the deal, and I get to keep my job and keep on being Silverbeak, and
well, that's up to you.
I'm still a few
Well, we're
years
saying
away from graduation.
That's up to you.
I can't quit my shop to go do some research. I can whip up some new secret identity if you guys want, but I can do it as Brian Black.
Right. That's what we're talking about. Okay, just letting you know. The trouble is that Myrmidon is the danger here. Myrmidon is really pressuring St. Mary's to be a backer for the Lexicon Project. And the university, the St. Mary's College, is actually looking at this very favorably. So that's a problem. We really don't want to suddenly discover Michael's work and powers to be owned by Myrmidon.
Whatever happens, they'll never own the Lexicon. It's not ownable. But we do need to keep them away from the knowledge and the capabilities.
Amanda, taps her pad and looks around at everybody and says in a somewhat leadership way, so anyone object to keeping Myrmidon out of this, if at all possible?
Not at all.
No.
All right.
The further away the better, as far as I'm concerned.
And so it's tricky though. Their knowledge, their penetration into all of our activities has been significant already.
I have a thought. There are elements of the Lexicon that are relatively benign. It's a deep, multi-layered study. And if we have to feed them breadcrumbs, we can do that for a little while without compromising, without giving them access to serious power.
All right. No,
that might be a way to tread water for a few weeks, few months.
Cheryl says, Michael, what do you think about your students? I mean, I know classes with them barely began, but what do you think in terms of bringing them further into the Lexicon in terms of abilities and capabilities?
I have someone in mind who I almost wrote up as a DNPC. Maybe I should do that, actually. No, I think you're shaking your head at me. I think you're right, but I need to seriously spend some time with them and see who's capable.
All right, so that's really all they've got in terms of like all the legal hassles and things that are going on. So being social, though, everybody's eating and talking about different things. Basically, this is everybody's chance to sound off on whatever they think is important or going on. I assume all of you have been paying strict attention to what has gone out regarding the detainment center.
Yeah.
The Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement has basically looked very bad in that this particular installation was exposed at all, especially because various interested parties, different state politicians, for example, the state legislature, had been very interested in where all the detainees had been detained after it came out that the federal government had almost no idea.
Right.
So, but somebody had to organize it at the state level. Who was it? How did that happen? Where did they go? And they got a huge report, like a great big report, and this wasn't in it. So that's all blown up, and heads are rolling, and people are getting fired and resigning to spend time with their families, which apparently means you never get prosecuted. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to punish the whole family, do you?
Yeah, I don't understand that part. But that's what's going on. It did not come off well. However, the messaging, the terrorist attack messaging, or the notion that someone with either superpowers or with terrible weaponry of some kind was up to no good there. The right-wing radio is already going off about how, see, we told you, you get these people in one place too long, and all the badness. They're not from our culture. They've got mental problems. They're not like us. They don't value life the way we do. They make weapons. They have bad plans. Put them all together like this, and you see what happens. That's actually fairly easy to spin in the language of those radio shows.
Yeah.
So that particular media war is ongoing. There are wild tales, of course, particularly regarding the Giant.
Yeah.
And particularly, Myrmidon. Myrmidon was there, and Myrmidon's messaging is very clear that, the superhero Myrmidon came down and basically put an end to all the violence. So Myrmidon has come out looking really, really good and has a very progressive persona. The company, says, this is brutal and inhuman, and these policies by ICE are dreadful. We don't need ICE. We already have U.S. Immigration Services. We don't need this parallel thing. And so, and besides, it's in the wrong hands. So the messaging that ICE would be okay if Democrats were in charge, they actually leave that window open. They don't quite come to the point of let's abolish it, but they're very much using it as a kind of, if Russians hadn't hacked it, and if Jill Stein hadn't spoiled it, and if sunspots, then we would have had the right president and none of this would have happened. So that kind of messaging is very strong from Myrmidon, the company, or the role of that superhero is put into that context. So does that make any sense? Yeah.
Any images of us? Any video? Any photo? Anything?
Well, it was a detainment camp. It wasn't exactly a place where everybody had cell phones to, film whatever they were looking at. And
but Myrmidon herself was
right. Well, she's got her own
curating the footage. So.
Exactly. She's got her own footage of her own self, and she was actually pretty capable. She was actually, let's just say, without any explanation to you guys, you guys aren't in it.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's just as well.
Right.
As a character.
Yeah. No, exactly right. We don't want Myrmidon appropriating the, you, for example.
Right.
And which they seem all too ready to do. If they haven't, says Amanda, if they haven't, then they probably don't think that it's quite strategically right. They probably want you grinning with your hands on your hips, front and center on call for the next thing before they reveal that you are their boy. Right.
Right.
So we're playing a very dangerous game with Myrmidon, particularly because we don't know what they know and every time we turn around, they seem to know more.
Brian would make would call for a toast. Like
Yeah, okay.
I tell everyone that we should be proud of our achievements so far. I toast with everyone, and I propose that we think of a name for ourselves. Not just the three of us, the three superhero ones, but this whole meeting of minds and wheels, not wheels, willpower, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be Jennifer. Wait, am I getting that wrong? Jennifer Power, right?
Yeah.
No, it would be
Schaefer, full
right.
name.
It would be she would be the one who says, this isn't a joke. Actually, you're not cops. You're not designated heroes. All of you are defying the way that they want you to be. You're breaking rules.
Defiance.
Not bad.
So I react.
Wait, but did you hear that, Santiago?
No.
No, I know
What?
what Rob said.
Defiance. Like the defiance.
Who said that?
Rod just did.
Oh, I was just writing that also, but I thought it was defiers. The word defiance. Yeah, that sounds.
Now, do you mean that like the noun, or do you mean it like the persons, the TS? Or
I was saying TS. Yes.
yeah, interesting. I like it.
Yeah, the defiance.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just about to. Did you say it on character? In character?
Yeah.
You did now.
Then
Yeah.
I go like this.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shay Pao. I said to her, believe you to everything.
So is this the bit where, like, the scarab reveals himself?
Oh yeah, sure. Speaking
No,
of names.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I got the right segue for this. Cheryl says, Crawl, the oblate, and she's looking over at Brian to see what he's going to say, and that's probably your cue to jump in.
Okay, so I say, actually, Cheryl, no one who's not Catholic knows what an oblate is. So,
Some people who are Catholic weren't entirely sure either.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, really. So, I have a new direction. Kapoof!
Oh,
From now on, you can call me the Scarab.
Ooh. Aha.
ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Crawl,
a new costume.
the scarab.
It's basically the same costume with a scarab on it instead of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Ron,
Yeah,
Ron has
That's
a picture.
it is a cool picture. Certainly Jen Powers would be looking at Brian and say, so what are you, like Mind Bolt or Brain Blast or something like that? Yeah, and you're not used to everybody like looking at you and saying, yeah, you have mental powers. What are we going to call you? You know?
Why I start laughing and I go like why would I be called that? I mean, I fly. What's that got to do with the mind? Jennifer, come on.
His mental powers aren't really violent or attacky, though, so
Yeah, well, they
No,
right.
blasting.
This is hilarious. Everybody in the room starts describing your powers perfectly, with paying no attention to your protests. Yeah, I mean, they're like asking you straight up. So what? Can you read the past? Can you do this? They're like asking you for the menu of your mental powers.
Oh damn!
By the way,
Well, guys.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Guys, actually, this could be. You may be selling me on this. I mean, if I hide the fact that I'm Brian Black,
Mm-hmm.
I can go along with the mental powers thing.
Right.
I could I don't know, wear a tour band or something. I'm working on it, but I mean, I could be like the psychic flying guy. We could say I fly because of my psychic powers or something. Like I'm one with the chakras. I don't know, but you know how it goes. Yeah.
Chakra.
That could be a thing.
Chakra. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No.
Says
No.
Jennifer Edwards. No.
Absolutely.
No appropriation.
Oh.
I think the one thing we've proved this evening is that the TV star needs a writer's room behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
We'll think of a name for you.
Well, all right.
Mhm.
I'll think of a new cool costume.
They all look at each other and say, "We'll help you." The worry is Man of War. We have.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's asked Brian very carefully about what he said,
Oh
and it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
no.
He obviously was playing you along until he could get out of your sight, and didn't believe a word you said.
Damn.
Now that I'm
And
back in the situation, I completely I just remembered I'd been meaning to follow up on this with some basic detectiving tasks, like checking neighborhood forums and message boards for that area for people reporting food being stolen, anything like that. Checking the police bands, just trying to assemble, and I guess I can do wizard stuff too. But
Let's do the detective work first.
Yeah. Okay. Do I straight up make the roll? Okay.
And Ross, what do you have in mind for this kind of stuff? Because this is kind of in your zone.
yes, so I figured we didn't have a lot of success trying to track him. Perhaps we can lure him to somewhere with the biogunk serum in some way, maybe boosting it into a... So he'll be able to detect it and come and find out what's going on, because that's clearly going to interest him.
Detective work was successful, but
Jen's very interested and says, what if that were contained in a moving and intelligent target?
You could see the plus points and negatives of that. I was hoping to do it to somewhere where maybe we could keep intelligent targets out of the way and not get anyone else into trouble or danger.
Well, the problem seems to be, more than anything,
We
she
don't know
says,
where he is.
I don't think that will be too much of a problem. The problem is whether we find out the bad way or the good way. And
Okay.
if he is disoriented, then the chance of him doing a lot of damage is pretty high. And then she'll say pretty much what you said earlier, Rod. What can this guy do anyway? I mean, who was Man of War? I mean, I know the name, but I don't really know what he did.
I guess Cheryl was probably the one who would.
Well, maybe not. I mean, she doesn't have like a superhero, database.
Well, right. I just meant generationally.
Yeah, well, she's thinking about it a little bit. She'll point out that she knew he was a real guy. She knew about that he was considered an asset, part of the heroic tale of World War II, but not anything else. I mean, she doesn't really know too much else, but she says this is something that we can start looking into this. We should start figuring out what his background and his past are.
Right.
And then we can also, actually, then she looks at you, Brian. So Santiago, she looks at you and says, "Wait a minute. Didn't your grandfather serve in World War II?"
Yes.
Wasn't he, or maybe more like afterward or something like that?
He was part of a program, but I'm not sure he so much combat. I mean, there were, from what I know, that there were a couple experiments to build more superpowered people, like Manowar and a few others, and the patents eventually got to Monsanto or
right.
wherever.
Amanda can speak to this because she's actually done a little bit of work on the legal history. She says, "Well, I've been digging into the Black case, and I know that there was a lot of social problems with superheroes in the 1950s, and your grandfather was part of that. There are events and actions that the governing company at the time was not prepared to take responsibility for.
Really?
A lot of the licensing laws came out of those events.
Wow.
So she's saying, yeah, there's some history here. We need to dig into it a little bit more.
Well, I can always call my mother. I mean, she hasn't told me much apart from her memories of her being flown around by her dad. But that's pretty much it.
And she never had any superpowers?
No, never. Nothing manifested on her.
Every woman in the room shoots a significant glance to one another, and they all stare at you neutrally.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably got to do with the Y chromosome or something, like a recessive thing, only works on men or something, It's like being bald. I mean, it passes on from the...
Jennifer Edwards puts a sharp elbow in your bicep and says, "Time to shut up now."
All right. Sure enough.
So yeah, you can see what they're... what a bunch of men. Make an intelligence roll, everybody.
Yeah.
I made it.
Santiago?
Never happens.
I got an 8.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
This is 15.
All of you, you three and Father Ochoa, all kind of blink and suddenly realize that ahead of you, all the women in the room simultaneously deduced that your mom hid her superpowers. Yeah.
I'm like... I turn it into a smile. Monsanto doesn't know shit about this.
Right.
If my mom's got powers, they absolutely... that's a blind spot for them.
Right.
This could be awesome, actually. I am going to have to do some checkup.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Excellent.
mum sounds cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, she is cool. She's pretty cool. Yeah.
All right.
She's a bit cooler now, actually, now that she's divorced my father, sadly.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Now,
Well, we can keep it business for now.
so the question now becomes, I mean, you've done, here's what your detective work on Man of War has turned up since it was successful. The kind of thing that you first started looking for, which is basically, is there somebody dumpster diving in a superhero on the run kind of way,
Right.
isn't really what's happening. What you have is a set of you have a set of kind of mysterious assaults or attacks on places with extensive water holdings, especially water under carefully controlled conditions. One was an aquarium supply place, and one was an unrelated, research lab where they had a whole lot of very carefully calibrated salinity, pH, temperature, things like that. And what's weird is how much, the reason that it crops up is that, first of all, nothing was stolen in terms of expensive equipment that was lying around. But a great deal of the fluids in question had vanished. I mean, not like vanished, like carted out in buckets or in their containers, but vanished in the sense of drained.
So I'll say he's built himself an aquatic habitat.
The other information is that all of the police have been alerted through unknown channels to be on the lookout for and a set of like profile points is listed, and one of those points concerns slime, basically, and another one of those points concerns this is a little scary, assaults on Asians. So it says, look out. We want to be notified if, there's some sort of random attack on Asian Americans. Yeah, there isn't like a physical description of a guy.
Right.
That's not passed out. This has been kept very, very much under the radar. The media don't know about it. This is all from your detective working to, to find information that other people are not passing around.
Yes.
So, Ross, you
Yes.
do have contact with Tweaky, if you will remember her.
Yes.
And she seems to be the only one who's kind of survived the great dark web purge of biohacking.
Yes, Tweaky. I should get in touch with her. Because she was worried that I had been snatched by the army. So I should probably...
Actually, she thinks you have, as I recall. She
Yes,
still thinks
so
that's
she-
you in there. Yeah.
Yes. So I should reassure her. I guess I will try and see if I can contact her on the laptop that I still have for that purpose, although it's clearly compromised and this is going to be dangerous. Perhaps I shouldn't do it from Michael's apartment.
That's good of you.
Yeah, says Jen, I was just getting used to this place. Amanda kind of shoots Jen Edwards sort of a look, not a sort of rival woman, what are you doing in my man's apartment look, but kind of more like the, are you going to keep staying here look? Sort of the, wow, she's kind of moving in, isn't she?
Call it a sublet?
Yeah. Good enough. So are you talking to everybody about the police departments and what they've been alerted to find? Have you told everybody?
Yeah. No, I'll transmit the information and say, Finn, I'm guessing with your senses you could pick up a large quantity of salt water?
If I was close to it, I think maybe...
If you were close to it? Yeah, that's the problem.
Do a bit more of a... if we were looking for that, where would we look for it? Sort of thing. I don't have magic find the sea powers, put it that way.
Find the sea. Okay.
Right. There can't be that many places that have what he's looking for. I'm sure we can narrow it down.
When you describe that the police are supposed to be looking for a certain kind of slime,
right? It sounds a lot like
everybody looks over at the bathroom, right?
Yeah, right.
Everyone has noted the new state of your tub.
Yeah, that is another problem, by the way. The things the police are looking for look a lot like the crawl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hardly beat anybody up.
Guys, I'm freaking out over our online capabilities status. I mean, if Finn can contact his deep web friend, what are we good for? I mean, can we all get hacker filters for our devices or something? Or maybe some magic? I don't know. We need to be able to log in from wherever and speak encryptedly between us.
The biggest problem, it seems to me, says Jennifer Powers, the biggest problem is that the people to go to find out more about this would be Myrmidon. Right? I mean, they're the people who know this. Yep. Isn't there any way to interact with this person, the hero person? Did you guys tell her? Did you guys tell them that it's Tina, by the way?
What are the
I would think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the, I would say Cheryl says, could Tina? I mean, is she a totally loyal Myrmidon person? I mean, is there some way we can use her as our in?
As her own person, she's sympathetic. The problem is she's
not always her own person.
Not always her own person, right?
Yeah, Amanda says, and that own person is not exactly a saint. Let me tell you.
Oh.
Yeah. I understand that, but she's the best asset we have for dealing with Myrmidon.
Right. So, these are just different conversational points that are cropping up.
Yeah, I understand.
More and more, though, as far as the proactive issue is concerned, people are starting to get real interested in Man of War. So, Ross, when you do get around to contacting Tweaky, are you going to let her in on the fact that that's not you in there at Ambiota?
I think I have to. Mm-hmm. She was talking about doing something to get me out, and I don't want to.
Right. Yeah, don't worry. We're working on it. We'll get you out. Right. It's her kind of thing.
No, I'm fine. It's things are okay.
How? Okay.
Tweaky.
Yes.
Yes. So, you know how everything looks like it's a huge, terrible fuck up mess? It is, but it's more of a mess than you even know. For reasons I don't understand, my brother decided to pretend to be me, and the army snatched him instead. But hey, I'm sure he's having a lovely time. He likes that sort. I'll have to get him out, I know. But anyway, I'm good. How are you?
She says, well, the biggest problem that I have is I have, and it's I need to freeze this material that I've got in my tank in my backyard.
Okay.
It's a fuel tank, one of those horizontal things that you stick on legs.
Yep.
And she says, that's my biggest problem, is that I've got a bunch of this, and if Amybiota, finally tracks me down, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble with this. I mean, I don't want them to get their hands on it. I've been doing stuff, with it.
Cool. Yeah.
And I can't move it. Listen, is there any way we can, she says, can we do something with it? Can we, activate it? Can we?
I've certainly got some ideas. Maybe I know someone who's definitely be interested in it. We just have to find him and get in there, I guess.
All right. So she's talking to you about that, and Jen, returns from the bathroom dressed, but looking fresh as a daisy, and says, "There we go." And she kind of spreads her arms and says, "I should be reeking of it about right now," even though she smells fine. But she says, "I should be reeking of it about right now."
Well, that's a plan. Ben?
It's a plan. Yes. Okay. Let's head out. Tweaky will be round by you at some point. We'll see. We might take the long way.
Right.
Can I have your? I hope she gives me her address because we're coming to help her.
Right. She's coming clean to you about her identity and everything.
Yeah.
She's right. Tell me, how are you guys going to find Man of War? The detective work roll does help.
It seems unlikely that he's just spontaneously built his own facility. He's probably appropriated an abandoned facility that could house him. So
I say we bring Myrmidon in, man.
All right.
Because those army guys maybe they get to him first or at the same time as us. And who knows what else they have up their sleeve. We are looking at a possible combat situation. I mean, we have successfully used Myrmidon against the ICE, and we have used Monsanto against those crazy gun people. Let's use Myrmidon against. Let's start clearing up the board. Too many organizations already. Let's deal with. I'll prefer if we have just the 1 or 2 enemies and not 6.
Wouldn't we all?
I was going to say, but that's not how the game works. Let's if Amanda has a vote, she's like, let's leave Myrmidon out of it. We need to be the Defiance, our own selves, and make this work, for us, without them. And they know too much. I mean, we don't want them. They don't really know much about Crawl, and the last thing we need is Myrmidon, or is it Monsanto, or Myrmidon sniffing over after Krull and wanting to dissect him or something.
Yeah,
I
but
second that.
if we give them, I think if we give them Man of War, that will give them off our backs for a while. That's
not
a price they
giving-
can chew on.
Giving a human being to anybody.
Yeah, but they're not going. They're going to use
No,
him
no, that's
for
not what
press
I'm saying.
mainly. It's not like they're going to imprison him again and make experiments on him.
That's exactly what
It
they
is
were
like
doing. That's exactly what they're going to do.
Myrmidon? You think Myrmidon is going to do that?
Oh,
You
you're
saw what
saying.
Myrmidon do to people. We spoke
Yeah.
to what Myrmidon do to people.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Anyway.
Your friend Jennifer Power is going to be very big on how Noldo Vieira may come off as this great big progressive, but actually is like this kind of crypto control freak. He's totally in favor of a whole bunch of power structures that are maintained through all sorts of terrible means. That he talks a good game about being this progressive guy, and that Myrmidon is like the eco-friendly, tech entertainment of the future, the best of the transhuman. He's seeking the transhuman tipping point, right? But he's all about that. But the fact is that he's a creepy, crypto fascist as far as she's concerned.
Like we've
yes,
seen
and
happen.
you know who Man of War is? I mean, I talked to him face to face. You know what he was all the time yapping on about? My superiors. I need to contact my superiors. He's in it. He's in for it. He wants a structure around him. He's all about authority. He is going right into the hands of the army and wherever that puts in his way. He's a loyal soldier. Yeah, but we can't offer him that. We are a rogue, We aren't the army or a large organization. He's not going to trust us. We're not superior to him.
That's a really good question, though. I mean, we're stopping him from doing harm, and we want to help the guy. And Jennifer Edwards is like, yes, we do. As far as he's concerned, he's another tanker. So. But, how are we going to do that? And the best bet is a combination, says Cheryl. We have the biology, and she points at Krull. We have the human contact, the mental contact that you've already shared with him, according to you. Mm-hmm. And we have the flexibility of, and she almost says the oblate, she goes, of Scarab. We have the diverse capabilities of Scarab. We can come up with something. We can come up with something to reach him as a person and to at least get a handle on orienting him. From that point on, yeah, we have a problem, but I'd rather we were involved in fixing it rather than turning him over to the army or to Myrmidon or to law enforcement. I don't trust any of them. So that's Cheryl's point of view.
Then let's go a bit more public with this.
Yeah.
Let him know we are looking for him. Let him know that the only people he has any sliver of reason to trust are on the lookout for him. Let's put out let's stencil and graffiti the walls saying look out for the cops and the army wherever. It's us, it's your friends, the ones who got you out of the bucket. Let's make a logo or something. He'll know it's us. He'll remember us. The fuck he will remember us, of course.
Of course.
We're the first human beings he's seen in quite a lot of time. Let's tell him we have a safe place for you. Just come.
He might.
Contact
That's my
us.
point, says Jen. He might believe me. He might believe me.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah, I see that.
So,
Yes.
lead the way, gentlemen. What are we doing? In the fiction, everybody in the room starts babbling ideas excitedly, which I'm not going to roleplay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The question is, what do you guys come up with?
But I think our bit of our plan is we can use Jen, Edwards, my Jen, as bait, because she'll be. Hopefully, he'll be able to detect the biogunk that she is freshly bathed in. But we need to find the right place to set the bait. I think that's the question that we need to.
Yeah, we can just
Think about
parade her around the whole city. Yes. All right.
If we don't have a better idea.
You say that this friend of yours has a whole tank of gunk?
Yes. We could start there, I suppose. It could well be that he'll find that himself.
Michael, where were the... and this is a different people are talking all at once.
Right.
And Michael, where did these thefts, these weird thefts take place?
I mean, I'm thinking, well, so I guess I'm speculating that he wouldn't have gone too far from the northwest side where we last left him. So probably, I mean, I don't know what his movement capabilities are, right, Ron, in terms of
Right.
how far he can go
Right.
operationally, but he could have gotten this stuff from like potentially aquarium supplies and
Right.
a
I was
research-
somewhere exactly, but
and a
somewhere fairly
research facility.
substantial. Right.
that possibly in the university area, so possibly up to we could possibly narrow down to like a 3 or 4 mile radius type
I
thing.
think that's exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so we can reasonably start with the assumption that he's operating in about a 3 or 4 mile radius and check abandoned facilities that might be appropriate for his needs in that radius.
All right.
And potentially start actually looking for his mind.
True. Can we bring that tank along as perhaps a useful substance to use, or do we want to leave that out of it?
I think we should bring it along. I'm not sure how we transport a tank.
Amanda smiles wickedly and holds up a brand new credit card and says, "Meet Robert Bell,"
Mhm.
and wiggles the card.
Wow.
Says, "Robert Bell rents things, takes care of things, registers for things, pays for everything on time. Right now, Robert Bell is going to rent a pickup truck."
Awesome.
Sounds good.
And then she says, "You know, we didn't have our name yet when I got this, but she says we can customize it. We can have a D." She kind of looks and says D with a little, you know. She kind of looks across you and says, "There's not a whole lot of similarity across the images. I got to work on the symbol." So yes, she's, you know, kind of flicking around a little bit.
Well, looks like we've got our plan.
All right. So, guys get a from a slightly less than top end rental place. So it's much more on the order of, hey, I wanted to transport my burnt out boiler to the dump, so I'm renting this truck to do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of that sort of rental truck, not, the spiffy, not the spiffy, well, even more so, not like the shiny Subaru, or something like that. This thing's got dents, and they're not going to count the dents before you take it either. So, okay. So yeah, you guys are there. And how are you guys going to travel?
I'll drive.
Is there any reason for us not to just drive around in the truck for the time being?
If you want to. Room for two in the cab.
So inside the truck we'll have St. Edwards and the...
Right, she's going to sit there in the back with the tank. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the hope is for all you know, this isn't going to involve any kind of super issues at all. For all you know, it's going to be nice, and the guy will run up and say, oh, thank you for finding me and helping me. Please help me integrate into the 20th century, and can I be on your super team? And that's all you're going to do. And you're going to go back, and the food won't even be cold.
All right, so I'm going to be scouting around, flying around.
I mean, Ron said it, so it must be true.
One of the interesting possibilities is a water treatment plant in the area. Looking around, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a water treatment plant here. So if you're going to try and maybe triangulate a little bit and say, okay, well, if this is the area that he's in, venting some of the tank. Yeah.
Oh, right.
And Jennifer would be the point person for actually trying to communicate with him. Because she is a non-player character, and non-player characters get in trouble. Or dependent.
So is my mind scan useful for this kind of thing?
At this point, if once you get to this area, which is much less, it's going to be an easier task than it was before. So yes.
But so we're leaving a Reese's Pieces trail of goop for Manowar.
Yeah, I get it. So it's not just going to the one place or the two places. It's also going between them and leaving a trail for him to follow.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. This is starting to make a little more sense. Yeah.
And we can say that we are doing that now.
Right.
Yeah, everyone? Okay. Yeah.
Tweaky is really happy to see you. She's never met you face to face. And is a little bit...
Never met face to face, but we probably ought to have each other.
Yeah, exactly. This has been a long and fruitful interaction. And she... and so... she loves Jennifer Edwards. She says, wow, you're her. She's kind of famous. She's the big, success story of all this interaction. So
I have tentacles. What's going on? Everyone loves Jen.
Do they know? Does the biohackers know that you're Crawl?
Good question. No, maybe not. Maybe
I've been assuming not.
Yeah. Okay. No. Maybe I've told them I've done experiments and tests, but yeah, you're right.
Okay. So right. So she pretty much assumes... What? Say that again?
Does Tweaky know?
No, that's what we were just describing. So she's a little confused, but she says, that's what's going on. I mean, she wants to ride in. She's in the truck too. There's no way to make her not come. So. Okay. All right.
Awesome. Doesn't know yet then.
Mm-hmm. So plenty
of
people.
Like?
A short, not very attractive, but not classically attractive, but vivacious young woman, with plenty of socially awkward details, but all definitely her own person. You know, she owns a tank of biogunk and she knows what to do with it, and that's how it is. She has successfully defied the man online for years, and you know is well ready to. She and Finn have like a technical conversation for a few minutes that's completely incomprehensible.
Cool. Okay. You get a read.
All right, guys. What will you do specifically?
I will fly around, trying not to call attention while we are moving in the track. But when we reach the locations, I look for a good spot and do the boop, 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 boop thing.
Okay.
See if I get anything.
Excellent. The way you're going to handle that is to first make an ego attack roll. So you're going to roll 3 dice. Just tell me I know your ECV. You tell me what you get. Remember that this costs you double endurance, right?
All right. So then let me know how much I spend. 9, 11.
Okay, so good. The 11 is a pretty good roll for this purpose. You have a bonus because you've been in contact with his mind before.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a few other things working in your favor. You know where he is. He's at the water treatment plant.
Whoa. Awesome.
Ross, I am very interested in what you and Tweaky talk about a little bit. She's going to ask. She's saying, so are you with these guys? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah. We kind of got into some different, slightly suspect activities on the back of my experiments. We're kind of...
She says, yes, Tweaky's on it. She sees where you're going. She loves it. She's like, uh-huh.
Yeah, it's... are you managed to see any people in it? Because kinda... We made a dude. You heard of Man of War? We think maybe...
That's interesting.
We think maybe the goo is him. And someone's been doing pretty suspect stuff with it. Like...
Wow.
So we're trying to track him down, because we made him and then
She goes... But that means we could get superpowers.
Be careful what you wish for.
Oh, she says, oh. So
Hold that thought.
right. Excellent.
What an interesting possibility that suggests itself is a water treatment sales facility, but it's basically one of these places that's just a bunch of double wides, and there are a lot of those little places dotted. Most of them are in strip malls, which I kind of rejected, but some place like this that might be a little farther back from the freeway or have facilities that, you know, they're on a lot with a bunch of double wides, maybe some old sheds. Maybe there's a shed they haven't really...
It says Aquaman. That's perfect.